Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're completely skipping over the dry, dusty academic theory. Instead, we're plunging headfirst into the dark, incredibly emotionally charged psychological thriller that is Oscar Wilde's absolute masterpiece, The Picture of Dorian Gray. Seriously, buckle up, because we're about to watch a human mind slowly break in real time.
What if beauty wasn't a gift, but a slow disappearance of the soul? Think about that for a second. It's a haunting question, right? It completely flips everything we think we know about vanity right on its head. I mean, we usually think of physical perfection as a blessing, like winning the genetic lottery. But imagine a world where every single unblemished year of youth on the outside actually requires a piece of your humanity to be carved out and hidden away on the inside. This isn't just some story about a guy who stays eternally young. No, it's an incredibly intimate, deeply unsettling exploration of a soul just evaporating into thin air. So let's get into Section 1, a slow disappearance. At the core of this whole thing is a terrifying concept, the corruption hidden behind perfection. Imagine the sheer psychological weight of walking around with a flawless face, knowing with absolute terrifying certainty that your true essence is actively rotting away. It's like every compliment you receive, every admiring glance from a stranger, it just becomes a stinging reminder of the deep corruption you're desperately trying to hide. It is a brilliant, agonizing psychological tension that makes the whole experience feel incredibly claustrophobic. Moving right along to Section 2, the descent begins. Now, we are just looking at random events here. We're tracking a real-time psychological collapse that happens in three very distinct stages. First up is the transformation. This is that sudden, incredibly intoxicating realization of his own power and physical beauty. Then comes the catalyst, the dark, incredibly persuasive influence of Lord Henry, who essentially waters the seeds of Dorian's narcissism. And finally, the corruption, the chilling arrival of his first truly cruel act. It's actually not some massive dramatic explosion. Instead, it's a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in morality. It's that exact moment you hear the psychological floorboards first begin to creak. This creates a terrifying split in Dorian's reality. On one hand, you have his flawless youth. This is the dazzling, charismatic shell of a man navigating high society completely free from consequence. But on the other hand, you have the moral decay, this rotting essence that has become entirely detached from his physical reality. And here's the kicker. The deeper Dorian wades into his sins, the wider that chasm becomes. It's the manifestation of a man literally being ripped in two by his own dark desires. You can almost feel the mental tension snapping under the immense pressure of trying to keep those two realities totally separated. Which brings us to Section 3, the living witness. You see, the infamous portrait at the center of all this is definitely not just some passive piece of art. It is a literal, breathing record of his hidden sins. Think of it as an active, living witness to every cruel word, every selfish act, every single ruined life. It acts as a psychological mirror. It shows Dorian the grotesque reality of his choices, a reality that the actual physical mirrors and his lavish home completely refuse to reflect. It's absolutely fascinating and honestly deeply disturbing to think of a canvas not as a beautiful object, but as an active, malevolent participant in a person's total undoing. A hidden crime scene of the soul. I mean, just let those words sink in for a second. A crime scene is a place of violence, right? A place of violation. It's where evidence of sheer guilt is scattered around for investigators to find. By locking this painting away in a dusty, forgotten upstairs room, Dorian isn't just hiding an ugly portrait. No, he is frantically taping off the site of his own spiritual murder. He's the victim, he's the perpetrator, and he is the terrified witness, all rolled into one tragic package. And that leads us to Section 4, the final breakdown. Imagine the visceral horror of a complete emotional and moral collapse. Picture a pristine gentleman, his hands visibly trembling as he holds a key to a forbidden room, the smell of old, stagnant dust masking the metallic scent of fresh blood. We don't even need explicit narration to know he's losing his mind. The heavy, suffocating atmosphere does all the work for us. The claustrophobia really sets in as he realizes the horrifying truth. Sure, he can walk away from his victims, he can lie to his closest friends, but he is forever trapped with a monster of his own making. There is literally no escape. Finally, let's look at Section 5, lingering philosophical echoes. This story leaves us with these incredibly powerful, curiosity-driven questions that totally bypass the 19th century setting and speak directly to our modern, universal anxieties. Seriously, ask yourself, what if your mirror aged instead of you? It's a compelling thought that perfectly captures that complex tension between outward appearance and inward moral decay. Uncovering the crime scene of a soul, watching a human mind break in real time, these aren't just spooky elements of a fictional Gothic novel. They're reflections of the terrifying cost of perfect beauty, and the portrait that hides the monster inside us all. This dark narrative really forces us to confront some heavy philosophical questions. Is beauty actually a gift, or is it a curse? Can a soul truly disappear? What is the real cost of perfection? And perhaps the most striking question of the whole bunch, can we ever actually escape our own consequences? Dorian sure tried. He literally locked his consequences behind chains in an attic and threw a tarp over them. But the rot spread anyway. This story refuses to just fade into obscurity because it forces us to deeply examine our own obsession with the surface level and what we might be secretly sacrificing just to maintain it. The entire narrative is defined by this unsettling, symbolic imagery. Think about a beautiful brushstroke that's literally dripping with blood. It immediately conveys this stark juxtaposition of high art and base, ugly depravity. It's the perfect summary of the corruption hidden behind perfection. We're talking about a locked room hiding a rotting canvas, a flawless face masking a corrupted, twisted shadow, a mirror reflecting a totally fractured mind. These are the vivid, cinematic images that make this particular descent into darkness so unforgettably terrifying. Ultimately, the story of Dorian Gray is so much more than just a classic Gothic tale. It is an intimate psychological mirror held right up to us. So I want to leave you with this final, haunting reflection. If a canvas recorded every single shadow of your soul, could you actually bear to look at it? Take a moment to consider your own hidden crime scenes. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning everything, and I'll catch you in the next one.